Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be. We are broadcasting over Facebook and over YouTube. And with me today, I'm Scott, and with me today is Trina Paulus, author of Hope for the Flowers. But you've got more arrows in your quiver than just that, don't you, Trina?
Boy, I sure do this week, Scott. Just yesterday, I got another invitation from Korea that they are, 8 of them are coming actually this big weekend. So if any of you are in New York, you can meet me if you want at the Dock Commerce Road Plaza at 2:30, where I've been asked to speak with the Korean delegation in protest to the Japanese plan of dumping 103 million tons of contaminated Fukushima water into the ocean. And they started already on the 24th. So I'll say something more about that a little later. But this is a big honor to actually meet the people I've been in contact with overseas. And also, we have a new butterfly here that I want to share with you. And this is the end of that season. We managed to do a beautiful little release yesterday. It was storming in the morning, and we thought we'd have to cancel it all. But the sun came out later, and we ended up with quite a nice crowd at our park. I had no butterflies at that time, but one did come out this morning. So let me show you this and see if it's going to hang around at all. They make their chrysalis at the top of this when that's they climb up, and it's as far as they can get is the top of this bowl, this thing, and you can see it here. It might fly out, and then I can catch it. But there's my monarch. So it's ready.
Oh, that's beautiful. Look
Can you
at that.
Should I try to take it out? Let's see.
Sure, why not? This is what a treat.
Okay.
Trina, I kind of grew up with monarchs all over the place, and I haven't seen one in a long time. So this is a real treat.
So
Thank
they
you
had
for
them in
sharing.
Montana, huh? They had them in Montana
Yes,
where you were. Okay,
we did.
this is a boy. I don't know if it's sharp enough to see, and you have to see when the wings are open.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a little
Oh,
black spots toward the bottom.
and
Oh, hello.
lift
Look,
it up, up, up. There we go. Isn't that something?
that's the first one that's been
Wow.
to sit on my finger. So it must be fairly newly born and not quite ready to fly. Otherwise, it would be flying to my window. And oh, you can see it now. Maybe you can see
Yeah.
those black spots at the bottom of the smaller wings.
That's even more beautiful than I remember, Trina. This is truly a treat. Thank you.
And this is the Methuselah generation, folks. They are supposed to have stronger wings. They live for 6 months instead of two weeks. And they're the ones that fly 3,000 miles to southern Mexico, Michoacan, Mexico. And they stay there for the winter. Well, thank you for staying here with me and treating the people on screen. I see your proboscis, but you're not quite ready to drink, are you? The proboscis is that little tube that comes out of their mouth. They can't chew like the caterpillars, so they don't eat anything. They just drink nectar from flowers through these. And when it's born, the proboscis is this little tube. Ah,
Oh, there we go.
it's at the window. I will catch it when we're done with this. Okay, Scott. But isn't that wonderful? And
Oh, that was terrific.
thank you for being on, Scott. So I still have 3 chrysalids, but I had nothing yesterday. But there's a whole little tribe of us around my area that looks forward to this day every year. And we were all afraid we wouldn't have any monarchs because it's been so dismal this year. But people brought what they had, and we had a very lovely little. You don't need too many, but you need some to make the point. And it would be really shocking to have a butterfly monarch festival with no monarchs. Okay, the thing that happened to me also yesterday, later in the day, is a new phone call from Korea. I've had 3 this past month, and we came through with some of you who were on these calls before have seen some of the videos we made for Korea to help protest the dumping by Japan of water that they say is now safe. But you know that a lot of things have been safe. DDT was safe. A lot of things have been claimed to be safe. So, and they don't even claim that they've gotten all the isotopes down to safe level. They certainly don't have tritium. And so that's our reality. And the Koreans are protesting, and there's a great big thing because the United Nations 75th General Assembly has opened already, and the high level meeting that all these presidents come to, and you hear about them giving their talks and their positions on life, come to is on the 18th and the 19th. So this weekend in New York, if anybody can get there, do get to one of these things. I'm coming in on the Saturday for the nuclear protests and the Fukushima protests, and I've been asked to speak personally right there at Doc Hammarskjöld Plaza, right opposite the UN on 47th Street. So that's where I'll be at 2:30, and I might have the strength to walk in the march before that from the Japanese consulate up there. So we'll see about that. We'll see how I'm doing on Saturday when I go in, and if I have a companion or if I don't. We'll see. So I used to do this a lot, Scott. I used to go to the United Nations a whole lot. And my first memories with crossing 42nd Street with the poster behind me. And then one time with my son, who was just a little guy, driving his sort of little backside on there with a little sign in front of him on it, and he's a little kid across 42nd Street to the United Nations. These were the United Nations big conferences on nuclear disarmament. And for quite some time, nobody's been very active in this whole thing as the clock goes toward midnight. And now it's at the closest it's ever been with the Ukrainian war and all that playing back and forth with these big powers that have these huge stockpiles. Only the Russians and the Americans have the huge big stockpiles, but all the others, China and the others, have smaller ones. But all of that, if they let even all those out, that would create nuclear winter and would totally darken the sky like explosions from a volcano for so many years that the prediction is that all life would disappear. Not the globe, but all life, plant and animal and human. So we're playing with such disaster with this stuff. So I'm protesting a more specialized thing, and that's what I've been asked for the Koreans to give my little talk on. And I've been giving these. Scott and I have been making these videos that we've sent out to support them in their struggle. But the Japanese started dumping on the 24th of August this huge amounts into the Pacific, and I'm afraid to say my country, the United States, along with those that usually vote with us at the UN, are the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Those are the ones that are sort of, they say it's okay, Japan, it's safe enough. Okay, let's dump it. And the Korean government too. So there's all these Korean and Japanese and other protesters protesting this. Even though it has started, we want to stop it because it's supposed to take about a decade for them to dump all this stuff in large quantities that they started on the 24th. So that's what I'm going in particular for, and I've been involved with now for a month. I'm going under the auspices also of the Korean Friends of the Earth. I think that's such a beautiful title, Friends of the Earth. I hope we're all friends of the earth and see that getting close to the earth processes like composting and respecting the weather patterns and not trying to fool around with things that we don't know what the consequences of our actions are. And that's a sorry thing with a lot of what we're doing these days. We're very clever and we can create things without knowing the consequences, the unforeseen consequences, assuming that people have goodwill when they create these things. They want to use it. They want to try them out, like we did with the bomb. So that's part of this whole mission. So I have a whole history with the United Nations stuff.
And
When,
I'm excited for you to be meeting some of the people that you've been corresponding with
and that, and that
from
you've been
Korea.
corresponding with too, and you made these videos for. So,
Well, that's true. That's true. But these are people actually you've known for a while. Are there people that you've known for a while and
well,
that you've met before?
My friend Chuni Kim is probably one of the main organizers of all this. And I met her years ago. And the story of how we met was pretty wonderful because this was the year 2000 and my book was just published. And in 2001, in the spring, when the United Nations Commission on Sustainable Development had its 2 weeks final meeting in New York, I decided I should go in because I was close enough. If I didn't do anything else at all for 2 weeks, I could get up early in the morning and get the train in and walk to the United Nations and just do it. So few Americans were came to these things. It just was kind of shocking and sort of disgraceful when people were coming from around the world. So I came, and in this particular commission meeting, I was in an energy caucus, and there was a Korean. Oh, and I had just gotten my first shipment from Korea of my book for the legal edition, and I brought in the book next day, and I showed it to this Korean woman who was there, and she looked like she saw a ghost, and she said, "What are you doing with this book?" And I said, "Well, I wrote it." And we became these fast friends, like my sister practically. She visited me and she lived in my house for a while after she got her master's degree in environmental activism from Yale. And she stayed with me for a while. And then she visited me at my mother's home in Cleveland and was there right before my mother died and with the rest of my blood family. So we're very close. So she's coming and so I'm delighted to see her again. And so uh, that's going to happen this weekend. So I'm starting at the end of the tail. But I've been to these UN things for many years. Every time there was a UN nuclear disarmament protest, I would go there and march. And I was at the huge one before the Iraq War. And we should talk about that a little bit because Iraq was blamed for 9/11, and they really had nothing to do with it. But we wanted to bomb somebody, and we did. And we were determined to make the intelligence fit our program to bomb Iraq. And the one of the big lies at the United Nations was that time when Colin Powell, who apologized later in his life, that he so regrets his part of that starting this war, where he said he held up this pile of that this was the explosive material. And
Well, that's a good reminder. And you're kind of the leader of us all, Trina, in terms of keeping our eyes open and setting a North Star for us with some of the underlying principles that you've expressed all of your life.
one of the things is do your own homework, folks. The major media is now pretty much in line with whatever the government says. And we know from these past experiences that the government has not always told the truth. And so don't just take that for granted that the common thing was, and I'm so against the censorship that's going on because even if you don't agree, you should not try to stop the people because I still like this John F. Kennedy thing about the importance of this whole healthy controversy.
Yes.
The hallmark of healthy change. And we have to allow that if we want peace. If we allow that and then not stop, well, we don't like what they're saying, so we won't listen. And it's a terribly corrosive thing, and it sets us up for a revolution when people feel their voices have been squelched so much. And I don't want that kind of revolution. I want the kind where it's radical sharing, freely chosen. Both are very important. We won't get any place unless we're willing to share even our lives if necessary. But if it's free, if it's demanded of us and coerced by us, and we're pushed into it by mandates coming from another place, and that's one of the problems of the UN right now, and the WTO and the
Mm.
World Health Organization, is that and the World Economic Forum, they want a world government where few people will make the decisions for the rest of us. And I'd rather have our messiness, Scott, like our problems we had last week, where we had such a hard time getting our technology
Oh,
work.
isn't
So,
that funny?
so
Well,
I like our messiness. Put it that way. Our human
well,
messiness.
our human messiness. So, what is the phrase that you have?
Radical sharing, freely chosen.
So,
Both are
there
important. Parts are important.
there is so much strife and so much strident conversation around nowadays. It's just a relief and a real pleasure to hear how you want to present your views and views of other people in a way that is palatable and in a way that allows for dialogue. What do you
And
have there, Trina?
this is the 50th anniversary cover. So it's that's what Hope for the Flowers is about. Radical sharing. Don't climb over others to get to a top just because everybody else is trying to go there. So it must be good. It isn't good. You have to become your full self and transform, choose a cocoon, and then you can become one of these beautiful butterflies that carry the love of one flower to the other. And I think our 15 minutes is up, Scott. So thank
What
you
a
for
be-
helping.
what a beautiful way to end today's Ask Trina Anything. See you next week, everyone.
9/11 can be hopeful.